The EU has brought forward the availability of vaccines for children by 2 weeks. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says she's spoken with German US vaccine makers, Pfizer and BioNTech, to guarantee access to a new batch. She also says bloc members should make COVID vaccines mandatory because too many people are still refusing to get shots voluntarily.
We are in kind of a tug of war. On the one hand, you have the virus and the variants, and on the other hand, we have vaccination and boosters, and I want the second part to win.
Well, for more for the picture across the bloc, we now go to Brussels to our correspondent Shona Murray, who's in Brussels. Shona, thanks for joining. So we've just seen Ursula von der Leyen there supporting mandatory vaccination. Several EU countries are actually considering this. Are vaccine drives and travel restrictions at the core of the EU response?
Well, I think she was very, she knew, and she pointed out that this is very much a member state competence. So she doesn't have any position. The EU has no role in talking to member states about mandatory vaccines. It's a complete member state competence. But she made the point that she never thought she'd see the day that we have this deadly virus, this deadly crushing virus, and we have vaccines, yet 1/3 of the EU population is unwilling to get vaccinated. That's about 150 million people. She also made the point that out of that, there are many people who can't get vaccinated for medical reasons, and of course small children under the age of 5, so that everybody else who can get vaccinated has an obligation to protect those who can't. And so she said it's something that needs to be discussed. But of course, we've seen some countries, Austria in particular, going ahead and saying that there will be mandatory vaccination by February, because of course you see all across Europe a disproportionate number of people in ICUs that are unvaccinated. Those who are in hospital that have been vaccinated often have underlying conditions. And on the travel restrictions, I think the emphasis is on trying to keep the single market as open as possible and making sure that people are vaccinated so they can move around. But we've seen a number of member states, Ireland, Portugal, for example, ensuring that people still have a negative PCR test regardless of their vaccination status.
Now, Shona, negotiations on a deal to allow developing countries to produce COVID-19 vaccines, which the EU is part of, was postponed because of the spread of Omicron. But this is exactly what was being called for.
Yeah, it's almost really, well, it is ironic really that the meeting in relation to future variants and ensuring that developing countries can make vaccines to prevent future variants was cancelled because of an escaped variant. But there is no agreement on this yet. The EU's position is, and it has moved from its original position, is that they will allow for compulsory licensing for COVID vaccines only for developing countries. So if a country like South Africa or others want to take the licence, then the Belgian government can force, let's say, Pfizer or someone to hand over the details of that. NGOs and others say that they want a complete intellectual property waiver because the other way is way too complicated. The WTO was near an agreement on this week, but obviously has been stalled. But the EU and Ursula von der Leyen said today that they're pretty much on the same page. They want developing countries to be able to make their own vaccines, but they also make the point that regardless of countries being able to make their own vaccines, there are still obstacles, manufacturing obstacles, and also a huge problem, which is vaccine hesitancy, which actually is an issue across the world.